Hello, folks. Welcome in, one and all, to a brand new edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. It is Friday, February 27th, 2026. Thank all of you folks for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. The second ever live edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. Had a great time with my buddy Paul Jarrett last night talking about some of our thoughts and takeaways from the LSU baseball season from the first 2 weeks of the season. This show mainly today is going to function as an LSU weekend preview and an LSU pregame as the Tigers will take on in Alex Box Stadium. They have 4 games over the next 4 days, Friday and Sunday. They play the University of Dartmouth, and then Saturday and Monday they play Northeastern. Really excited to get into breaking all of that down. I thank you folks as always for tuning into the show. This is again only our second ever live edition of the Babin on the Bayou show. We are live currently on YouTube and on X. Yes, we got all of that figured out from yesterday. So we got all of that figured out, and that was unfortunate. We wanted to go live on X yesterday. We weren't able to, but we got everything figured out. So let's get right into it. I did want to add a piece of admin before we get into everything today, folks. Is that we do, if this is your first time tuning in to our show on X, we do have a daily title sponsor actually of the Babin on the Bayou show, and the amazing team over at Shield Heating and Cooling, the best AC company around today, a team of experts with multiple decades of experience. With multiple decades of experience as experts in the AC industry. We partnered up with them at the beginning of this show. We launched it on January 12th. They partnered up with us to give something away to you guys completely free. If you call the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling today at the number 225-46-BAYOU, 225-46-BAYOU, B-A-Y-O-U, you tell the team at Shield Heating and Cooling you heard about them from this show, and we'll be giving away to everybody that calls that number free AC system cleaning checks for every AC system in your home, whether you have one AC system in your home or 4 or 5 AC systems in your home. It doesn't really matter, folks. Call the best team in the business today, best AC team in the business today over at Shield Heating and Cooling. Tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou show. And you'll get free AC system cleaning checks for every AC system in your home. Again, that's 225-46-BAYOU, B-A-Y-O-U. And that Shield Heating and Cooling, your local comfort defenders, who we greatly appreciate for being the daily title sponsors of the Babin on the Bayou show. All right. Now, we got all that out of the way. Obviously, there's a lot going on with LSU, with basketball, women's and men's getting a couple wins over the last couple of days. And then, NFL Combine going on for guys like Garrett Nussmeier and stuff. But today we're covering LSU baseball, our pregame. We're looking forward to that. So again, the Tigers, let's get right into that. The Tigers play. What's up, Paul Jarrett? Thank you for tuning in, my friend. So the Tigers play Dartmouth Friday and Sunday, and then they play Northeastern on Saturday and Monday. So look, the Tigers started 8-0 in the season for 2026. First time they've done that under their head coach, Jay Johnson, the best head coach in college baseball today. Thank you, David Billiot, for tuning into the show as well. I appreciate you guys. Look, I think obviously you started 8-0. Your lineup was raking. You threw 8 games through the first 2 weekends. You were leading the SEC as a team in batting average as a team, hitting 367. You have the unfortunate loss on Tuesday to McNeese. That was really unfortunate, but it's baseball. It's what happens. You had a lot of top 10 teams that went down this week. UCLA, Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Tennessee lost to Kent State 2 out of 3 on last weekend in Knoxville. And it's baseball. It's unfortunate, and really you shouldn't expect to win a game in which you issue 11 free passes. When you issue 11 free passes as a pitching staff, you should never expect to win a game like that. And really that command really costs LSU that game, but you move on. You take what you can from it and you move on, and I expect the Tigers to come out and do very well this weekend. Buddy Paul Jarrett, who's watching the show right now, mentioned on his great podcast, Walk It Off, that he did yesterday, the first episode of it, how he would not want to be Dartmouth. And I would not want to be Dartmouth either, because I think the Tigers are going to come in tonight and jump all over them, and they should after what happened against McNeese. And this team's really good. This team is really solid, and they're going to be fine. And I'm looking forward to the Tigers having a great weekend. We'll get into the comments in a little bit, folks. I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. But anyway, wanted to start with the starting pitching rotation. The guy I'm excited to see today, of course, on the mound once again for the Tigers on a Friday, your Friday ace, Kason Evans. And I've talked about it a lot this week. I believe in Kason Evans. I know there's been some conversation surrounding Kason about his ability and about if he can be the Friday night guy after the first two starts he made against Milwaukee and Indiana in the first 2 weeks of the season. I think all of that stuff is overblown. I think Kason is going to be just fine. I mean, look, last year it was phenomenal as a freshman, led the team in saves with 7 saves. He had that amazing game in the regional final against Little Rock where he struck out 12 over 6 innings of work against Little Rock. And then he had a great outing against UCLA in Omaha, saved game 1 in Omaha for LSU against Arkansas. And in his first 2 starts, yes, he was shaky in the 4th inning against Milwaukee. I understand that. But in the first 3 innings, he struck out 7 batters. And against Indiana, in 4 of the 5 innings he pitched, he retired the Indiana lineup 1, 2, 3 in order. Yes, he had that one bad inning, the 3rd inning against the 3rd inning against Indiana, where he threw 46 pitches and allowed 3 runs to cross the plate. But even in that, only 1 ball left the infield in that inning. So it's not like it's not really like a lot of Indiana hitters hit well off of Kason Evans. That's not really what happened in that situation. I believe in Kason Evans, and more importantly than anything else, Nate Yeske and Jay Johnson believe in Kason Evans. That is the truth. And I'm expecting Kason Evans to go out and have a really good showing today for the Tigers. We can get into the lineup in a little bit as well. Wanted to get into some comments here. What's up, Paul? What's up, David? Let's see what couple things Paul's got to say. Yeah, it's baseball, period. Absolutely. Arkansas's losing right now. That's an interesting one. Northeastern just beat Grambling for their first win this afternoon. We're going to get into Northeastern and Dartmouth in a little bit. Do you think Evans can get back to more of himself today? At least 5 innings and around 80 pitches. I think Evans definitely will. I think he's going to come out because, look, I think you saw improvement from start 1 to start 2. From Milwaukee to Indiana, I think you saw improvement, and I expect to see more improvement today. I think he's going to do good today against Dartmouth. We can get into the notes that I have on Dartmouth and Northeastern. So Dartmouth has only played 3 games thus far this season. They only have played 3 games thus far this season, so really kind of a weird schedule. Their starter tonight, I expect it to be a freshman right-hander, and I want to say Izzy Parsky is his name. I want to say that's how you pronounce it. Izzy Parsky, the freshman right-hander for Dartmouth. Again, they're 1-2 on the season. They've only played 3 games thus far. When you look at it, Northeastern's usually a really good program, actually. They've made a regional in 3 out of the last 5 years, but they've really started really rough this year after they finished 48-9 in the regular season last year to end the regular season and were a regional 2 seed, but they started 0-6. They were winless in their first 6 games this season. They just beat Grambling. Thank you for that. According to my buddy David Billiot, I appreciate you. But they went winless in their first 6 games of the season, got outscored 83-27 combined in those first 6 games. Their pitching staff had a 15.00 ERA in their first 6 games, so they have been putrid to start the season. They have been really, really bad to start this year. And I think also with Dartmouth tonight, you have a righty on the mound, a freshman righty who, again, has probably only seen 1 appearance so far on the season because Dartmouth has only played 3 games when you look at it. So it's like I expect LSU to be able to come out and rake tonight, especially against a righty. Like seeing a righty, they've seen a large amount of lefties in the first couple of weeks, and they're going to see a righty on the mound tonight. And I expect this lineup, they went 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position the other night against McNeese, but in the first 8 games, they were dynamite. They were awesome in the first 8 games. I expect that to continue. Obviously, the big news is that Cade Beatty is healthy and that he is going to be back this weekend. He went out in the 4th inning against McNeese because I believe he got hit on a ball got fouled off of his foot, and he was obviously in discomfort, but he's back this weekend, and Cade Beatty is a big part of this team, a guy who Jay Johnson talks more glowingly about Cade Beatty than any other player on the team. So getting him back, I think with the lineup, again, you'll see great things this weekend. We talked about people have been talking about Derek Curiel's start to the season. Hopefully this weekend he can just want to see him go out and attack the baseball this weekend. Like I want to see Derek go out and attack the baseball because I don't think he's played bad in the first 2 weeks, but we know that when Derek Curiel is on, he's the best player on this team, and he's a top 10, first-round draft pick in this year's MLB draft if he plays up to his potential. Absolutely. So excited about the game tonight. Let's get into a few more of these comments. Kaysen is about to shove. Absolutely. We already got through that one. Look, I think tonight what you're going to see is the Tigers come out and they want to get back in the win column, and I think they will. I think the McNeese game, you played 8 games the first 10 days of the season, and that was 3 of those games were in Jacksonville. You fly back from Jacksonville on a Monday, get back to Baton Rouge on a Monday, then you have practice on the same day you get back, and then you have a game the day after that. The schedule was kind of weird. You've had 2 days off since the game against McNeese. I think the Tigers are going to come out and perform really well. I really do today. And we can get into some other things as well, a few weekend things as well, as far as the weekend preview. Let's see here. Any news on Stanfield? So Stanfield is still out. They're hoping to – you want to get him back soon. I think he could play if they ran him out there. I think he could play. I think the thing is he wouldn't be 100%. So I think it's like he could play, but if it went out, he wouldn't be 100%. And when you're talking about Chris Stanfield, you're talking about a guy who just started 3 years in the SEC. You already know what you have with Chris Stanfield. So there's no reason to rush him back in early non-conference play against Dartmouth and Northeastern. No disrespect, but there's no reason to rush Chris Stanfield back right now. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on. With Chris Stanfield being out, it opens up I was reading some stuff, some comments from some people earlier today also, and I think, I think it opens up with Stanfield out. It opens up. You really have Mason Braun, John. You have Mason Braun, you have Tanner Reeves, you have Braden Simpson, you have those 3 guys getting some more work. Because I think the one position, when you get Chris Stanfield back and Aaron Beatty, of course, is healthy, I think the one position you have that could be, you could decide who's going to fill that spot is the DH position. Because I think Seth Dardar, I think it's hard to take Seth Dardar out of the lineup. He's your everyday second baseman. So I think right now the DH position, you could say it's between Simpson, John Pearson is in there as well, Tanner Reeves. You also have Omar Cerna Jr. as well, and you have Mason Braun. So I think even with Chris Stanfield out, it gives those 5 guys some time to improve, some time to perform, and really set up who's going to be your starting DH when SEC play comes around and when Chris Stanfield comes back, because he will comes back. The only guy who's a little bit different in that situation is Cerna, because I think you're going to see Cerna start every Saturday. That's what I think you're going to see, because you've seen Cooper Moore. Like when Cooper Moore started, Omar Cerna has started. Like I think they're pairing pitcher and catcher up. So I think every Saturday you're going to see Omar Cerna. So Cerna is going to get playing time either way. But like that DH position, and then Aaron Beatty will play DH when Cerna is playing catcher, like you've seen in the first 2 weeks. But the DH position, when you have Aaron Beatty playing catcher and Chris Stanfield being back in left field, is between 5 guys. And Cerna, John Pearson, Mason Braun, Braden Simpson, and Tanner Reeves. And all of those guys are going to see action this weekend and over the next 2 weeks of non-conference play to see who takes that role going into SEC play March 13th against Vanderbilt. Starter for Northeastern went 5 innings, 4 Ks, 1 hit batter. They used 3 relievers to finish the game. Yeah, Northeastern getting their first win today. Again, they were 0-6 in their first 6 games of the season. Paul also said Northeastern limited Grambling to 2 hits. Grambling committed 3 errors. Tough game to get a read. Yeah, that Northeastern team has had a really rough start to the season. I know they got the win today, but I expect LSU to go out. I mean, when you have a team who through their first 6 games has a 15 team ERA, I expect the Tigers to go out and slug. And really, I wanted to go see the Tigers go out because I think they had a 5-run first inning against Nichols with the Caraway grand slam. But besides that, I don't think LSU, I would love to see him go out and jump on somebody in the first inning for 6 runs or something like that, and just go out and jump on somebody, because you have seen that. And LSU, not that they've started out slow by any means. I mean, they were up 7-0, through 4 innings against Notre Dame. So I'm not trying to say they've started slow in all their games this season, but I would love to see the Tigers go out against some lesser teams and jump on them this weekend, because I think what you've seen is basically what I'm trying to say is this series against Dartmouth and Northeastern coming into the season, Friday through Monday, was supposed to be much more competitive and really an RPI builder for LSU. But Dartmouth has only played 3 games thus far this season. Northeastern, even though they went 48-9 in the regular season and was a regional 2 seed last year, so you thought they were going to be good again this year after going to 3 regionals in the past 5 seasons. They've started 0-6. They've looked really bad. So really, it's not as competitive as you thought it was going to be. Let's get my buddy David Billiot. I just parked and about to head to the box. Wanted to come listen to your first pregame. Love it, man. Enjoy the game and go Tigers. Yeah, David going to be in a press box tonight. There's not a guy who works harder than David Billiot. I mean, outside of, John Eads works super hard, hardest man and working man in Baton Rouge. But David is a baseball junkie and he knows a lot about baseball. So I'm happy for you, man. And thank you for tuning in to the first ever pregame that we've done. And I think tonight what you're going to see is, again, with a righty on the mound tonight, I expect the Tigers to go out and perform well, because they've seen a lot of lefties to start the season. And I'm really excited for the game tonight. Excited to hopefully see Cade Aaron Beatty back out there. It's always scary when a guy gets taken out of the game, because you never know. But he's back and he's healthy and he's fine. And then once you get Chris Stanfield back, another thing about this is you batted .367 leading the SEC in your first 8 games without Chris Stanfield. Without Chris Stanfield in there, who led your team in batting average in SEC regular season play last season. Chris Stanfield hasn't been in the lineup. Once you add Chris Stanfield to a lineup that has already looked so great and so loaded through 9 games. I mean, McNeese, yes, but they still scored 6 runs against McNeese. It's not like they got shut out or anything, or had a terrible offensive night. My point is, you're doing all of this offensively without Chris Stanfield. That's what you're doing so far. So, I'm excited for the game tonight. Let's see. Hey, now, I know you work hard, Paul. Paul, you're awesome, dude. You're awesome, dude. I love you, Paul. You're awesome, dude. David, I can gladly take second to John. Thank you, man. Yeah, David and Paul, really appreciate both of those guys, and I appreciate all of you for tuning into the show right now. I think we'll get into, obviously, you have other starters, Cooper Moore and William Schmidt. I expect to get another start on Saturday and Sunday. Cooper Moore has been the best starting pitcher for LSU through 2 weeks now. He's just a guy who he just goes out there and pounds the strike zone. 80% strike rate against Milwaukee, 79% strike rate against Notre Dame. It's a 5-pitch mix, and all of those pitches, he can throw all of those pitches for strikes, and that's what he's been able to do. That's what he's been really good at thus far this season. And then I was so happy with how William Schmidt played and pitched against UCF Sunday, and I want to see him build upon that, because if William Schmidt can locate the breaking ball every week in and week out the way he did against UCF, watch out, because that guy has the best pure stuff of any pitcher on this team. He just has to find a way to throw it for strikes. He was able to do that and do it very well and had a great outing against UCF. I want to see him build on that and give me 2 of those outings in a row this weekend. He'll probably start Sunday against Dartmouth. Excited for this weekend, though, guys. Obviously, some other news outside of baseball is you also had LSU men's basketball, LSU women's basketball also get a couple wins over the last few days. Flau'jae Johnson, wanted to shout her out. Her senior night was last night, a national champion at LSU from the 2023 team. LSU wins Flau'jae's final regular season game, playing in the PMAC last night by a final score of 89-73. Michaela Williams had a double-double. Malaysia Fulwiley had 18 points. Flau'jae scored in double digits. So did freshman Zakiya Johnson, Grace Knox. But Flau'jae Johnson, an absolute legend when it comes to women's basketball, and I greatly it's just been awesome to see her over the past 4 years. And I know she's going to be back in the PMAC. We expect her to be in March, absolutely. But shout out to her and shout out to the women's basketball team for winning last night. We wanted to shout them out. We can get back into a little bit of more baseball talk before we get out of here. Yes, LSU needs to have all gas, no breaks tonight. And this weekend, Cowan needs to be better. Carl Dunn, Carl the Cat. Thank you, man. I appreciate you getting in the chat, brother. It's good to see from Carl the Cat. Good to hear from you, man. No, I think LSU is going to come out and have a really good game tonight, and I expect, especially with a righty on the mound, when they played an odd, numerous amount of lefties over their first 2 weeks, more than normal. I think they're going to come out against a guy who has only had one appearance thus far this season, because Dartmouth has only played 3 games thus far. I expect LSU to jump on Dartmouth early. Again, the number one thing tonight is Cason Evans. That's the number one thing tonight, because I believe in Cason Evans. I believe he's your Friday night guy. I believe he should be your Friday night guy. And most importantly, Jay Johnson and Nate Yeski believe he should be your Friday night guy. But I'm excited for tonight. Excited always for the Tigers. Look, you have over the next 6 days, you play 5 games. You play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, off day Tuesday, then you play on Wednesday. So it's very similar to the first week of the season, where you started out in the first 10 days of the baseball season. You played 8 games. So really, just the Tigers getting back out there, and you're going to see a lot of LSU baseball action this weekend. Excited for tonight. Excited to see Cason Evans back on the mound. I think this lineup, again, their pitch selection, their plate discipline, their plate vision has been excellent through 9 games, and I expect them to go out. Again, look, I think the other thing besides Cason, the other point I want to add before we get out of here in a little bit, is that you have 7 of the 10 pitchers pitched for you against McNeese. 7 of those guys issued at least 1 free pass. In the first 8 games, I didn't really think you struggled with command all that much. You struggled with it mightily against McNeese. Come out here. Don't make that a issue for a second game in a row. Go out there and throw strikes tonight. I expect him to. I don't think it's going to be an issue. But just flush all of that stuff from McNeese out and just go out and dominate Dartmouth tonight again. A team who's only played 3 games thus far this season. I expect LSU to have a pretty dominant weekend this weekend against 2 teams who you expected to be better than they started to the season. Dartmouth, it's not really their fault because they haven't played a lot of games. But Northeastern has been bad through 7 games now. They just won their first game today. So I'm excited, folks. I thank you. I thank all of you guys for tuning in. I'm excited for first ever LSU pregame. I expect to do more of these throughout the season. Excited to see the Tigers back in action in Alex Box Stadium tonight. A lot of things going on in LSU athletics. I did want to send out my condolences to and prayers to former LSU Tiger football player, his family, Devontae Lee, who played for LSU between the years of 2019 and 2021 before he transferred to Louisiana Tech. At the age of 27, it was announced yesterday that Devontae Lee passed away. In 2022, he was diagnosed with former bone cancer, and in 2023, I think he was cancer free, but unfortunately, for him and his family, is that he very, very sadly passed away at the age of 27 yesterday. And I love sports. I love pursuing my dream and getting to do what I'm able to do. But when moments like this happen, I just want to extend my prayers and my thoughts to Devontae Lee's family. Again, stand out at Amy High School for a while. He was a great player for their football team, and I just wanted to shout him to extend my prayers and thoughts and condolences to the Lee family through this trying time, and I'm again praying for them. But I thank you folks as always for tuning in to another edition of the Babin on the Bayou show, our first ever LSU pregame show. I'm excited for tonight. I think the Tigers are going to come out and do great tonight. Let's get into a few more comments. Great job, buddy. Thank you, Paul. Go Tigers. Excited for the Tigers to be back in action tonight. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. Hope you have a great weekend. I think I may gonna be a little bit more active on X and the social media this weekend, giving my thoughts on the recaps and everything that's going on and all of that. But I thank you folks as always for tuning in to the Babin on the Bayou show. Pump up being Nostradamus, you earned it. Yeah. Pick to click. Pick to click is the thing that Paul Jarrett does, my good buddy Paul, where you go out and a couple of us guys do a video for it every game. 15 minutes before first pitch it's released, we predict who's going to hit a homer in a game. Me and Tiger Joker are the Nostradamus right now because we predicted that Zach York was going to hit a home run the other night, Tuesday, against McNeese. And of course, I win my first pick to click, and LSU loses that game. So frick me. But I'm kidding. But no, I told Paul, I was joking with him. I was like, I don't want to win another pick to click if it means the Tigers are going to lose. But excited for tonight. Paul is also giving away for the people who comment and give their thoughts on the pick to click when he posts it 15 minutes before first pitch. If you comment, and he's doing a special giveaway for the he got a autographed baseball signed by William Schmidt that he's going to be giving away tonight. So definitely pay attention to guys like Paul on X and David and Go Team and AP, and all of those guys are great. But I thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Babin on the Bayou show, our first ever LSU pregame show right before first pitch is in about an hour. I hope you have a phenomenal weekend. Go Tigers, folks. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, and have a good one.